Welcome back to the Unstuck movement, true testimonies of breakthrough. I am your host, Rob Z. This platform was created to help you find incredible breakthroughs in your life and in your business. And today we have the incredible NatNat Bedard with us. Natalie Bedard is on the podcast. NatNat, I'd love to dive in with a powerful question right away. I don't want to screw around. Let's get right to the heart of things. And I'm curious for yourself. So you've had a near-death experience in your life that really had a humongous impact on you. And I'm curious myself, what was this near-death experience and how did it change your life?
I want to first thank you for giving me the most valuable thing you could do is your time. And you're sharing that time with your audience and trusting me in your audience. So thank you very much. I don't take this lightly. The near-death experience occurred back it started in December of 2013. I wasn't feeling well, and I kept going to the hospital, and they just kept telling me I was having the flu. Yet in March of 2014, when I went to the ER for the fifth time, that's when they discovered I had lesions in my brainstem and in my cerebellum, and my body was shutting down. So I was admitted into the hospital and I stayed there for almost 40 days. And in there, they said that what they saw, that they gave me a prognosis of 6 months. I hadn't had a bowel movement in 6 weeks. I wasn't keeping anything down. My son had to carry me into appointments. Like my body was completely shutting down. And the lesions had actually vertically changed the positioning of my eyes. So I had vertigo and couldn't see. So I couldn't distract myself with like watching TV or listening to things. I was just really in solitude in my body and the experience. And so when, you know, science and medicine doesn't know what you have, you go through a battery of very painful tests. So I went through lumbar punctures, which are spinal taps. I had biopsies done. I had radiation put in me, and all to discover that it was atypical, but we still don't have a diagnosis. So then I was released from the hospital without a diagnosis. So that means without a plan. And while I was in the hospital, there was a profound moment where I went through the veil of fear of what death really looked like and the construct that we have been given to us by religion, by society, that I got to go through that fear and really relate to my nervous system in a different way, because your nervous system has one function: don't die. And a lot of us don't know how to create the separation of not identifying with our nervous system. We think we're our nervous system. And unless you practice meditation or you go through these near death experiences, it's very difficult to create that separation. So I was able to separate and have like a download of all the things of my life experience and have a much more profound relationship with the present moment, with the unknown, the uncertainty, and surrendering any kind of control I was trying to grasp, I should say, on the outside, that I returned back within my body. And so when I was released home, I'm a solo parent. My twins were 4 at the time, and my oldest son was 18. So I have 3 boys. And so I had to learn really quickly of prioritizing the energy that I had, because it was very limited when I came out. So really finding out what is it that is important in the moment, and really developing my mindfulness and self-awareness, and having a much more profound relationship with divinity, God, Allah, universe, whatever name you call that life force, that energy that, controls everything. I really tapped into a deeper, profound relationship with that. And I started the return to love because of the, trauma I experienced as a child. I othered myself out of society. I othered myself out of worth. I othered myself out of love. And so this allowed me to return back home into my body. And, a year after being released, that's when I discovered meditation. And meditation just really opened up a whole different dimension within and allowed me to have much more profound openness, deeper listening skills, and being able to regulate the nervous system. Um, so it's still difficult sometimes to articulate into words what the experience was. And that's where it's when people are around me, they can just feel the energy of safety and feel the energy of presence.
As we were talking about before we started this podcast, I love near-death experiences. They are fascinating to me. I've read and watched hundreds of accounts of them. And one thing that happens in a lot of them is, I mean, you get connected to the source of love. You're connected to God. You're connected to that source that we on earth and in the temporal space that we're in, we're separated from that, right? We can't feel the fullness of it. So I guess I'm just kind of asking you this. Having that near-death experience gave you that connection. So when you come back, it's kind of like when I have a 4-month-old baby. Like, babies are automatically like connected to love right away, right? There's just like something about them that's so pure, right? That innocence is there. And I'm just, from my own understanding of NDEs, when you come back, you're reconnected in that experience to that source. And so you carry it with you back into the world, and people can tangibly feel that. Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, it was like all the belief systems and all the fears and constructs were melted away, and it was just being in a present moment. And as I said, I had the lesions in my brain, so I had to relearn how to think and string along sentences and string along responsibilities. And then I saw some of the things I was doing. I don't want to do this. Like, why am I doing this? So it got me to challenge, oh, some of the things that were placed on me, that this is the way you need to do it. And then there were other things that are responsibilities that you need to be like. I was a parent. There's sometimes like, I don't want to take care of my children. I have enough time of taking care of myself. Yet, really understanding, well, what is it that you need to do rather than what you think you need to do, and
Mm.
opening up the space, yet that profound trust and that profound openness of not being afraid of the fear, like really accepting your humanness,
Mm-hmm.
not chastising it, not pushing it away, and understanding that you're here to experience life in this dimension, yet you're part of something much more bigger.
Yeah. Okay, so hold on. Before we go any further, I just have to welcome people here to the platform. So this platform was created for you to find breakthrough in your life. So I bring incredible people on here who have found incredible breakthrough to give you an example that it's possible for you also. That's the idea behind the Unstuck movement. You have to have movement. You have to take action to get unstuck from the places that you're trapped in. So I love to have these stories, and they are always impactful for me, but impactful for everybody who's watching or listening. So I encourage you, if you are watching or listening, take some notes. What's the big takeaway you get from this episode? Write it down so it sticks with you longer. This platform is brought to you by the Connected Leaders Academy. You can check out connectedleadersacademy.com. Over 400 incredible heart-centered entrepreneurs from all over the world who want to connect with you and help you grow and collaborate with you. And a quick reminder also, if you want to be the go-to authority in your field, you want to have a lasting impact on people's lives with what you do and the message that you have, I'd love for you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. You can join the wait list right now at robzwentz.com. Natalie NatNat Bedard is the founder of Lift OneSelf, helping people find their emotional well-being. As a podcast host and specialist, she guides individuals towards self-discovery and healing. And you said something a couple of minutes ago that I wanted to go back to, because I never heard somebody refer to themselves this way. You said you had othered yourself. What does that mean, to other yourself?
I didn't think I was part of society because of the traumatic and traumatic experience I had. I felt that God othered me out of goodness.
Hmm.
and that I wasn't deserving of love and I wasn't deserving of worth, because if I was deserving of that, why would I go through such a traumatic experience as a child? And a child trying to make sense of, what an adult is doing to them, if you don't have another adult to help frame that, this is what happens with how we interpret our experiences and what our nervous system can create as coping mechanisms. Because
Mhm.
that allowed me not to feel certain dense emotions. Because I'm othered outside, then I can just store and not feel certain dense emotions, and that would feel debilitating or overwhelm me.
Mhm. That's a really good way of putting that too. Also, other yourself, because there's so many people right now in our society who have othered themselves, right? That they feel so disconnected from society, or they're so jaded by society, or there's a million different ways to go about that. So, how were you acting when you had been othered? What was it? How were you showing up for other people and in the world? And because also too, right, when you feel like you're othered in society, that leads you to do things, take things, think things, and be around people who make you feel more othered, right? It pushes you away further and further from who you're called to be or who you were originally created to be. So like, what was happening to you during that period of your life as you were othered, uh, that was creating such a disconnect?
As you mentioned, you start to associate with people that will validate the story that you've created. Yet something within me still had a guidance, because I was still choosing to be kind. I was still choosing to be open and wanting to help other people. I was still choosing, photography. I started at a very young age. And the reason why I started photography was because I wanted to capture the moments as they were in their raw form. So you could see the personality and you can see the beauty of it. Even when somebody would be like, oh, that's so ugly, yet they would actually start seeing the beauty of who they were.
Mm,
And so in showing other people what they were, I was actually trying to show it to myself. Like, we do things that we don't even realize we're doing for others that we actually need for ourselves, but we just don't know how to connect the link to it. And so in that, my ambition, my motivation was very dimmed. I didn't think I could be successful. I didn't listen to the guidance within myself that was there. I listened to the othering of other people. And so it put me in a trajectory of life where I still was very successful in certain ways, yet I wasn't in the fulfillment of what I was created to do, the gift that I have within myself. And that looked like like I had I would say a guardian angel. Like, I would say that my grandmother, because my grandmother passed away when I was 11, and it was 4 days before my birthday, and I was very close to her. She was like a maternal mother to me. And when I look back at some of the experiences that I've gone through, I'm like, how am I alive? Like, I really can't really fathom that. And some of the things that I've put myself in situations, or associated with certain people, I could have a totally different type of life right now. Yet I still had some guidance and some protection in a
mhm,
way that, created this kind of insulation to things. It was very dark. There was suicidal ideation in my teen years, in my 20s also. And there wasn't, like I said, I wasn't in worth. And so when you're not in worth, you don't know how to surround yourself with people that do have worth, or that will, or when people are trying to see the great in you, you're pushing it away. That you feel like that's too boredom or uncomfortable or whatever narrative there is that
mhm,
pushes away the thing that you're actually longing for. And that's why, like, when I had the lesions and everything opened up, and I had the somatic releases and got to come back into love, come back into worth, I have the language of what people go through so that they can better understand their defense mechanisms, because the nervous system is protecting your vulnerability. It doesn't want you to feel the deep pain that you felt when you were vulnerable. So we create these defense mechanisms, these coping mechanisms, not to feel our authentic emotions. Yet once you learn to surrender those defense mechanisms and go into that vulnerability, is it uncomfortable? Yeah. Is it challenging? Yeah. Does it suck sometimes? Yeah. Yet that's what the development of being in your power is, and being empowered of loving yourself, not for what you achieve, not for what you look like, not for the amount of pounds, for your essence, your life existence, and listening to that guidance that comes from within yourself. Because you have a calling that I don't know about, and I can try and tell you what your calling is, but I'm not able to do that because you have your direct connection. I'll mirror to you what you may not see about yourself and your greatness. Yet I'm here only simply to help people go back within themselves and trust themselves. In a world that tells you to doubt yourself, not to trust yourself, not to feel your emotions, because we don't have time for that. No wonder there's so much, disassociation, the compassion that we need in the world. A lot of times people mistake compassion with feeling sorry for people. Compassion is just like me, you're doing something that you're not aware of. A lot of times when we're doing something we're not aware of, but we should know better. Yet if we knew better, the world would be much different. It's not an intellectual thing. It's being able to access your behavior. And to access your behavior, you need to regulate your nervous system. And to regulate your nervous system, you have to feel your authentic emotions. Yet if you've never been given a space to feel your authentic emotions, how do I do that? There's no safety. I don't even know how to create safety within myself. So that has been the profound journey within for me to gather all the messiness of my life and be able to articulate it in such a simple way that people can see themselves in what I'm sharing and what's possible, because I'm lived experience.
Yeah, so I bring this up all the time because it's in what I do, and with this podcast, making your mess your message is always, it's just a reoccurring theme that comes back to me over and over and over again. Because as you get through something, as you go through something, and you get through it, what reason would there be to go through the thing than to help other people who are going through it also get through it, right? I mean, why else would I go through something unless I'm to grow? And I'm supposed to help other people. And if we're all connected, we're all one big community, us human beings. So we should be helping each other, pulling each other up as we get through stuff. It just makes so much sense to me. But our society will make it seem like that's not what you're supposed to do. And I shouldn't say our society as a whole. It's just like the people you might be around. Most people don't have the emotional awareness or intelligence, or they just the emotional intelligence. What I'm not intelligence, but like they've not developed their emotional intelligence enough to know that, okay, if we're all dealing with certain things, we're all dealing with something, we're all going through something, and my something might look different than your something, but it doesn't matter how much different my thing is than your thing. We all have different levels of suffering, and we all have different levels of how we deal with different kinds of things. And if I can help somebody from my experience have a breakthrough in their experience, I'm doing my job. And I just love that. I just love that that's the net that can tie us all together and help us all heal each other. And plus, and then like, I'm sure whenever you were othering yourself, you weren't vulnerable. Because I know when I was othering myself, I wasn't vulnerable. I couldn't open up. I didn't know how to. And I was afraid to. And if I did, I thought I was going to be, ridiculed, made fun of, put down, whatever it might be. And you think you're less than if you're vulnerable. The interesting part, when you're actually vulnerable, you're more than. And you're showing somebody else that they're more than they think that they are also. And you're opening up possibility. So it's really beautiful. I love that. Really quickly, we have to jump into the sponsor. I just want to make 1 minute shout out. We're going to come back because I want to talk about something that you talk a lot about, which is radical compassion, and how we can have radical compassion for other people in our lives, especially post 2024 election. There's a lot of, we're in the holiday season. You're going to visit family and things like that. There can be a lot of situations where it's tense. A lot of the old stuff comes up and a lot of conflict comes up. How can we have radical compassion for others? We'll talk about it in 60 seconds. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So we're talking about radical compassion and what that means, what that can practically look like in our lives. What does that look like for you?
Radical compassion is always reminding myself that when I am activated with my defense mechanisms and I'm defensive of not feeling my emotions, and if it's within myself because I've taken an action that I think I should not have or I should have known better, it's to allow those defense mechanisms to be melted away so that I can feel the love within myself and to not other and separate myself from self. When it's radical compassion on the outside of somebody else, I have to remind myself, just like me, they're not seeing what they're doing in the moment. They're not feeling. They're not being engaged of the self-awareness and feeling. When we feel, we're able to release and hear the information, yet many of us, we don't feel. And we just take activation with our defense mechanisms. And so that radical compassion is a reminder, you know what, just like me, they're not seeing something about themselves right now.
You've said melting away those defense mechanisms. And I think you kind of alluded to this, like our defense mechanisms usually come up because of something that a promise that we broke to ourselves. Can you go a little bit into that?
Our defense mechanisms, like I said, is in the basic is protecting your vulnerability. And your vulnerability, anytime there's certain emotions, you may have created a narrative around feeling about anger. So a lot of times when people feel anger, there might be a narrative that anger is garbage, anger is dangerous, anger shouldn't be felt, all these kind of narratives, rather than allowing the space for anger to be felt and acknowledged. You're trying to fight against it. So these are the defense mechanisms that come up and the narration that comes up rather than just feeling. So when you can have compassion of being able to feel, because anger is a big energy to feel. And it usually, if it's very overwhelming, it hijacks our behavior and we can take certain actions and say certain things to try to offload the intensity of it. And it's going to be messy. So that's why you need radical compassion once you start having a proper relationship with anger, because anger is very useful. It's a protective. So a lot of people think that they have anger issues where it's like, no, what are you protecting? And most times what they're protecting is their sensitivity and vulnerability, because I haven't been safe to validate my experience, validate my emotions. I haven't felt safe. So being able to release those defense mechanisms, and that releasing of the defense mechanisms is acknowledging I'm feeling angry right now. What am I trying to protect? And it will look like on the outside, and your work is, no, it's within yourself. But they did this. No, what's within you? What's within you? What are you trying to protect? And being able to have a space more and more with that allows that melting, and that they don't get activated so quickly, that you have space to feel this and it not go through a whole bunch of conflict within yourself.
What am I trying to protect? That's such a good question to ask. I'm going to ask my wife that next time she's mad at me. See how that goes.
Be very careful when you play around with the nervous system, because it does not, unless, I think what's really important is that you create dialogue when we're in a joking state, so that when we are activated, we have code words to remind ourselves, you're not seeing what state you're in. And
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm on your side, I'm not against you. So
Yeah.
what is it about that activated something? Could be a mess, and she wants her house a certain way, or I've asked you, but she really hasn't asked you because she has a difficulty. It's all kinds of different things that we have to be accountable for within. And when you're in partnership, it's creating language when we're in a good state, so that when we're in an elevated state, that we can remind ourselves, wait, this isn't the state to be in, and we're not going to solve anything in this. Yet we have to create safety to feel and be able to communicate, because many of us haven't been given a safe space to communicate when we have big emotions. We've been told to be like, when you've been a child, don't be angry, stop crying, don't do this. So you've never been able to validate and learn how to communicate through those emotions.
Mm-hmm. It's really true, and it's really, really good. It's everything, going back to what you just said a second ago. I'm trying to bring it back up in my mind what you said, because I was like, that's such a true point, that whenever we are in an argument with somebody and we are we're being misunderstood, or maybe we did something wrong to them, but we don't even know that we did something wrong, or we know we did something wrong, but we didn't mean to hurt them and it was an accident, or it's just, we're all broken people, so we do broken things. But telling the person, remember, I'm on your side. So that's really, really important to do. Like, remember, like, even though you're mad at me right now, I'm on your side. I'm not against you, because we can, especially with the people closest to us, they're the people that usually get the brunt of all of our anger and frustration and that sort of stuff, right? So reminding them, hey, listen, like, I'm sorry, and that we can work through this, but remember, I'm on your side. I'm not against you. It's one of the most important things you can tell people, because that can create, just saying that creates a safe space of like, we're together in this. I want to help you through it. Sure, you might be upset at me, but let's get through this thing together. As your life changed from the near-death experience, like because oftentimes when these sorts of things happen and we have a radical shift, other people around us are not prepared for the radical shift. And so they're like, what the heck's going on here? And they want you to show up the same way you always showed up. And I think we deal with that a lot in our life as we grow, and people struggle with that, right? So that's a really difficult thing sometimes, to be like, well, I'm growing, but this person's keeping me from growing. We'll start blaming people because they're keeping us from our growth. How did you deal with that and navigate those situations?
I had to actively recognize that I'm easily influenced to want to belong. So I had to recognize, oh, when you feel like you don't belong somewhere, you're easily influenced to try to blend in and fit in. And that's not where you are to go anymore. You are to stay within yourself and be who you are. And if other people don't accept it or don't understand it, it's okay. You're not alone. You're with yourself. You are somebody.
But
And
how, on a practical level, how do you do it when it's happening, like in the moment?
it takes courage to lean into the pain. It's painful. It's painful when there's disconnection, and it's painful. Change means there's going to be grief. You're going to have to grieve the way that relationships, and you're going to have to also recognize that it's not about them. You're dancing differently in the relationship and they don't like it. Yet you aren't to stop dancing the way you're dancing, because it's filling you up. And it's not about separating and cutting people off. It's just creating some distance. Like how I had to visually see it is, there were so many people docked in my dock with their boats and their ropes, where some of them I had to take their ropes off, that you can't dock, but you can still be in the ocean or the river or whatever you want to see it. You're still around, but you're not secure on my dock anymore because I need to have space for myself. And I had so many ropes, attachments, as they would say it, in relationships, and I had to remove those attachments and recognize this is my dock. Other people can come in, yet they have to be out. And it's not about severing because I don't know how to feel the pain of abandonment, rejection, whatever there is. It's feeling those emotions. So in real time, sometimes you're going to go back into the habits of conforming or doing certain things. Yet at a certain point, you have to make a commitment. Does this serve me? You have to continuously keep asking, is this serving the better of the energy within me? What am I getting out of this? How am I being able to feel the fear? Because it's fear that's being activated when people are judging or wanting you to do something and you're feeling their emotional temperature and you think you're in control of their thermostat. And it's like, no, that's not your responsibility.
Yeah. And just the awareness to realize that's what's happening, right? Like we were saying before we started, like for me, people who want to control everything, like I can barely control me. I fail all the time. Every day I'm failing at some way. There's a way that I want to be, and I continuously don't do the things that I know I should be doing, right? So thinking that we can control everything else around us, just friggin' forget it. Like surrendering that, but it's hard to do because it can come up so often. And
I
what
want
I've
to ask
noticed,
you, I just want to ask you something. There is a tool that I use and it's breathing. Would you be willing to do a 2-minute mindful moment so the listeners can see how they can start creating these questions that you're asking, but do it internally of regulating their nervous system?
sure, let's do it right now.
Okay. For the listeners, sometimes you're listening to this podcast while driving or, working out. So when I ask Rob and myself to close our eyes, safety first, please do not close your eyes. Yet you're able to
Hopefully
follow
that's
the
self-explanatory, but
the other prompts. You'd be surprised how literal some people get into. So Rob, I'm going to ask you to get comfortable in your seat, and
right.
you're going to, if it's safe to do so, gently close your eyes. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to be aware of its rhythm and allow it to guide you into your body. There may be some feelings or sensations coming up, and that's okay. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath and drop deeper into your body. There may be some thoughts or memories that have popped up into your mind, and that's okay. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, creating space between the awareness and the thoughts and dropping even deeper into your body. And just allowing yourself to just be. Again, more thoughts may have popped up. Bring your awareness back to your breath, beginning again, creating even more space between the awareness and the thoughts, and dropping even deeper into your body, allowing yourself to just be in the breath. Now, at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while still staying with your breath.
Always super rewarding. And I did notice that my right hip was bugging me, and through that, it's not bugging me right now, which is nice.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that it's so easy to take time to pause and breathe? Like that was Was that 2 minutes? Didn't even feel like 2 minutes. Felt like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it just brings everything down a bunch of notches, and it'll change you could change your day 100 times a day by breathing for a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And how unaware we are of our breathing is incredible. How totally unaware of how we're breathing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing to me. Was this something you were doing? Were you into meditation and following your breath and doing breath work before the near-death experience?
No, I don't think I would have probably had the lesions in my head if I was doing this beforehand. I think some of my lifestyle and some of the suppressed emotions and denying myself contributed to some of that experience that I went through physiologically. I also could have had a virus that, ran rapid and ran havoc in my system that they just couldn't identify in the testing. Yet what I know to be true, stress, people say stress, and stress isn't all bad. There's healthy stress. You need stress to have a healthy nervous system. Yet the mental stress that we create and the avoidance of emotions, that then creates our body to produce more cortisol. And we're only able to process a certain amount of cortisol. But if you're producing a lot, it's impacting the other systems in your body. And after a while, you might not feel it right away, but add on and add on. That's where we get disease and, illnesses that go on. And there's there's starting to be language surrounding this, yet in the medical system, it's still not there. Because, when you go to appointments, are they asking you what your lifestyle looks like, what your internal dialogue is, how you're feeling your emotions? How do you interact with anger? How do you interact with stress? What do you do in your mind with yourself? And those things are very impactful of how it contributes. So when you asked me the question before about, when you change and you're around people and how do you still commit to yourself? Well, when you breathe, you finally look internally and check yourself of what am I feeling? What's taking control? Is it my defense mechanisms? Is it my coping? Can I feel my emotions? Can I actually check in with myself and see what is trying to take command? And, doing that constantly starts to be in the moment. Like people think meditation is only on a pillow. You start there, yet really meditation is in your everyday living.
Same as prayer and meditation, right? It's like this constant practice all day long that's where the change happens, because the awareness comes from that of being like, oh, I'm not breathing, I'm holding my breath, I'm not thinking good thoughts about this person or about myself or about this situation. I need to pause and say a couple prayers. I need to breathe. I find it really fascinating. I love that God made everything simple. The life is like the best things are the simplest things. The solutions are so simple. Breathing. We do it all the time. We're constantly breathing. Like if I wasn't, I would be dead. And so would you, right? So it's like, wow, this thing that we constantly do, the most simple thing for us to do is the answer. Because breathing allows, like we just took that second or that couple of minutes to pause and breathe. Now, anything that was, I can feel this, I can feel it tangibly in me. Anything that was getting kind of stuck or bound up was allowed to just kind of go up and out, like a release valve. But we don't spend the time to release.
Well, the missing part is the awareness. People don't even realize that they have awareness. They have a consciousness. They're just going in the automation of the nervous system, what it's been programmed with. Yet when people hear breathing, they're like, I'm already doing that. Don't tell me to breathe. And it's like, no, bring your awareness to your breath, because your breath is always in the present moment. Most of us are stuck in our head. We're not in the present moment. And to be in the present moment means you have to be in your body. And most, if they've gone through trauma, don't want to be in their body.
Yeah.
Because those emotions feel too scary to feel.
Amen to that. Powerful stuff. Really good. I loved this conversation. I would love for people to find out more about you and connect with you, so you can visit NatNat's website. By the way, I love that you go by NatNat. That's a lot of fun to say. And it's
Yeah.
just I don't want to call you Natalie. I want to call you NatNat. So you can go to liftoneself.com to find out more about NatNat. What would you like them to do when they're on the website? Anything in particular you'd like them to do?
Well, they can browse around. I have a whole bunch of meditations that they can use and access. They also can do a 15-minute discovery call to see if I can work with them and we can find some energy healing so that they can begin doing the internal work of regulating their nervous system. It's warrior work to be honest with yourself and to feel your authentic emotions. And when you have a safe space to start doing that, then there's profound change that happens from within. It doesn't mean your environment may necessarily change, yet how you show up in it, that is the profound change that happens.
Mhm.
And so they're able to do that. They also can find a link to my podcast where I invite guests from all over. And I also speak in solo podcasts where we're removing the stigma surrounding mental health. And we're talking about different modalities and different experiences that people have gone through so that we can make the world much safer and much more with community, that people don't feel like they have to be alone and that they can be aware that there's other methods than just the mainstream methods that have been, presented to them. So podcasts, see if I can do any work with them. And also there's a lot of free, posts and writings and meditations that they can access.
Cool. I love it. Liftoneself.com. Make sure you check out what NatNat's doing online. I'd love to throw my name in the hat for the podcast. If you're ever looking for a guest, I'd love to be a guest. Be happy to do that. Feel like I'd have some value to offer. I want to remind everybody also, be the authority in your space. Launch your platform. Go to robzwentz.com. This has been an awesome conversation. I've loved this. Anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
I want to remind the audience to please remember to be kind to yourself because you matter.
Beautiful. I love those finishing words. That's wonderful. This has been another true testimony, a breakthrough. Until next time, this has been the Unstuck Movement.